Here we go. Right, next night I want to talk about albinism. It is a rare genetic condition that affects around 1 in 17,000 people here in the UK. It's caused by a lack of the pigment melanin, which gives skin, hair and eyes their colour. The condition affects people of all races and ethnic backgrounds, but they can often experience stigma and discrimination. Well, we can speak now to Kristina Venning-Rose, who has albinism and is chair of Albinism Fellowship UK and Ireland, and alongside her tonight, Dr. Jay Self, the lead ophthalmologist at the University of Southampton. Welcome to you both. Thank you so much for coming into the studio. And Kristina, I should just give a mention to Rafi. I don't know if we can see him actually on the wide shot. Oh, we can't. Your lovely assistant dog that's in here within the studio. So if you hear some rustling below the desk, it's Rafi. Kristina, why do you want to raise awareness of albinism?
Because I think there's still so much. It's one of those conditions that people still think they can make fun of. So I think in the disability world, there's lots of conditions that people realise that it's not okay, but albinism is still one because people don't see it very often. People's only point of reference is stuff in the media, which is always like inaccurate and scary and weird people. So people still feel like they have the right to shout albino at you in the street. I had it the other day where someone called me an ugly albino, swear words, just they were driving past, and they think that that's okay to do things like that. So I want to stop that from happening.
Yeah, I mean, what was it like growing up with albinism? Because it is rare, and many people would not have met someone with albinism before. What was it like as a child? Because I would imagine you want to raise awareness and bust myths for kids as well as adults, because, you know, being a child and being different can be difficult at the best of times.
It's really hard. I think part of the problem is it's hard because you don't ever see yourself represented. So I can't turn on the TV and see me. I can't read a book and see me. So when you grow up feeling like and thinking you're the only person, it's really hard. And because other people don't understand you, like kids didn't want to, when I was growing up, kids didn't want to be my friend. They didn't want to, like, I can remember when I was really little, like my first day at primary school, the teacher, we had to hold hands to go to the lunch hall. And this one kid, like, I put my hand out to walk with him and he just, like, recoiled and was like, no. And the teacher said, hold Kristina's hand. And he was like, no, she's scary. And nobody did anything. Like, when I was a child, no one did anything to, like, make people change and explain to kids, because kids are really receptive. If you educate them, then they understand things. If you don't, then it all becomes a mystery and stuff like that, so.
Jay, what are some of the common misconceptions about albinism?
So there's quite a lot, actually. So the most common probably is that everybody with albinism has obvious albinism from a distance. So Kristina has a particular type of albinism, but there's many other types where you can look as dark as me and actually have albinism, which gives you all the same eye problems, all the visual disability, but then you don't tend to have the stigma that Kristina's just mentioned. So although it's the same condition, it's quite a different experience. So that's the main thing. The second one, I suppose, is that it's really rare. And some people think it only occurs in African populations, but then there's something there about it being more obvious in certain populations, obviously. So people's experience of it around the world is very, very different. But what brings everyone together is that it's fundamentally a problem with pigment developing in your body, and that means that your eyes and visual system can't develop properly. So everybody with albinism will be visually impaired.
Yeah. You spoke there, Kristina, about your experience at school, and, you know, children can be cruel because they don't understand, and that's where the education and awareness comes in. But it sounds like you had a bit of a rough ride with adults as well. So when we're talking about raising awareness, it's important for adults to sit up and take a bit of notice as well. Can you mentioned that incident that happened to you just the other day. How has it affected things like work and social interactions, friendships as an adult?
So I made a really conscious decision. Like, I had a really horrible time when I was growing up. When I went to university, I made the decision, like, I went to university, I didn't know anybody, and I was like, right, I'm just gonna, like, restart. Nobody knows me. And I made a decision to, like, just forget everything that happened and put my all into everything. And I think it's just about having the confidence and being able to advocate for yourself. But you need to have that from when you're a child, because it's really, really hard to learn how to do that as an adult. So, yeah.
What's the best thing people can do if they are meeting somebody with albinism for the first time? Because some people can have the best intentions, but they're just quite clumsy about it because they don't quite know what to say and are often frightened of offending, and then they get it wrong.
I think you've got to gauge the situation because it's not always appropriate to, like, if I'm out shopping and I just want to go shopping, it's not appropriate to go up to me and say, why is your hair that colour? However, if people do approach me and ask questions, if they have genuine intentions, I'm really happy to answer them. And that's the only way to educate people. If people don't ask questions, they'll never know, right? So I'm always happy to answer questions. It's just about gauging the situation and just, being nice and polite like you would with anyone.
And, Albinism Fellowship, the organisation that you represent, that you're both here to represent, is a support network, right, for people to find others living with albinism, but also to come together to educate people. And I know that you've come out with a series of videos, Jay. Perhaps you could talk to us about that, because they're myth-busting, essentially.
Yeah, of course. So these are videos with two aims. The first one is to bust those myths. We talked about that. And beyond the myths we talked about, there are significant, even more damaging myths around the world, and a lot of them are based in folklore, ancient folklore. So in some populations, it's believed that it's good luck to have a piece of a person with albinism that you carry around. In some populations, it's deemed to be good luck if you have sex with somebody with albinism, or it can even cure HIV. So there are horrific things that you can imagine lead to awful things and crimes around the world. So one of the main things we want to do is bust those ridiculous myths. And then the second thing we want to do is provide good information. So often when parents have a baby and they're told they have albinism or they have signs of it, they've never heard of it before, as you just said. So actually we want to provide decent information and practical information, and to hear from people like Kristina and loads of other people who, despite difficulties when they're younger, have done amazing things in their lives. So that's the point of them.
Yeah. And the visual impairment, again, it's, you were just talking about the different types of albinism, and, somebody can look just like you, Kristina, somebody could look just like you, Jay, but it's the visual impairment. And does that have varying degrees of severity as well in terms of how it affects individuals? Kristina, perhaps you could elaborate on that. How does it affect you?
I think Jay will be the best person, but I'll say how it affects me.
Yeah, tell me how it affects you, and then Jay can do the science bit.
My main problem is I'm really light sensitive, so I can't go outside without my sunglasses because my eyes won't open. I have something called nystagmus, which means my eyes move all the time, and I'm registered as severely sight impaired, so I can't see detail. I can't see. So I can see your face, but I can see you've got like blonde hair, but I couldn't tell you anything else about you.
Yeah, I'll let you into a secret. I'm ginger. Or they're a little bit blonde at the front, so they've got to stick up for their gingers. Jay, in terms of what Kristina was talking about, that's her experience. How else can it affect people's eyesight? Again, is it varying degrees of severity?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. It absolutely is. But pretty much everybody with albinism will be visually impaired. Yeah. There's different levels of different things. So you can have nystagmus, with the eyes moving, that we mentioned. Often people with albinism have too much light going through the iris. So the iris is like a net curtain, so very, very photophobic, as we call it. And then there's problems with the way the retina's built, lots of other stuff. So it does vary a bit, but pretty much everybody will have their own unique mixture of those things. But everybody, essentially, with albinism is visually impaired.
Yeah. Kristina, what's the one thing you want people to take away from our chat here this evening in terms of, some of those myths from around the world are, quite jaw-dropping, like you said, from folklore. It's, jaw-dropping, here in the UK, less so, but there's still prejudice and discrimination. What do you want people to take away from our conversation tonight, Kristina? I
would say people shouldn't judge a book by its cover. If someone looks different, you don't need to point it out to them, because they'll be very well aware of that. And just everyone is an individual. And also, you can go and check out all of our videos on social media as well, and then you'll learn all about albinism, all about its misconceptions, and lots more as well.
Perfect. Just look for Albinism Fellowship UK on the social platforms and on YouTube as well. Kristina, it's really good to meet you. And thank you so much for coming in and talking so candidly, because by doing that, you're helping others, and not just those with albinism, but those who might think about it differently after today. Let's hope that's the case. And Dr. Jay Self as well, thank you for your time. And Matthew down there, who's fallen asleep. There wasn't too much rustling under the desk. It was very well behaved, Kristina. And thank you both so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come here on the UK Tonight.